Hi, I'm back. Barbara Bush here, working on my dissertation still. Obviously, I've qualified, so I guess that's not obvious, but I have qualified, so that part's done. And now I have been doing research. The research has been sort of an ongoing process through the qualifying exam, obviously, and now have been officially on a research trip here in Switzerland. I'm still in Switzerland, and working on identity formation at a personal level, how we take on these national identities as personal through the way in which we interact with the landscape and buildings and objects and with other people, of course. Yeah, finding that how that converges the national identity with a personal identity. And I feel that inherently has to do with not just language, but also our physical experiences. Dasein, to be here, to be part of it, phenomenologically, to be embedded in a place. So that's been my work. And so what I want to talk about today a little bit about is the IRB process, what the research trip, how to prepare for the research trip, what the research trip has been looking like, how it's been happening at the end, just to kind of sum up how I'm feeling about everything. So to start off, what I did to prepare. What I did to prepare is I contacted my department for money. Hey, going to Switzerland, think you can have some extra cash around. Could we possibly have, a situation where I'm moving the camera now, sorry, where I could have some dough. So I did that as soon as I could. Purchased my ticket ahead of time. I purchased it in January. Europe, Switzerland in particular, is expensive. I also have all along been reading, paying attention, trying to keep up with the political sort of going-ons in Switzerland regarding foreigners, asylum seekers, what they call secundos here, people who have been born here, to get an understanding of the more conservative backlash that's been happening in Switzerland vis-a-vis identity, right? So I did a lot of that background work. I also bought a camera. It's a Sony NEX3. A friend of mine recommended it to me. I can use it to document both books. It's not excellent. It's a $300 camera, but it's good. It's good enough for what I need. And I can also do small videos on it for my purposes, not for professional purposes. So I purchased that. And then I also ended up borrowing a tape recorder from a friend. But that didn't work. So I had my smartphone, and the smartphone has a recorder on it. So I was prepared. I had two things. That was an accidental preparation. But just so you know, you can more than most people here probably know, you can do that with your smartphone. So, and good recording quality, actually. So I had those items in place. I made one big mistake. I didn't check my passports. I have two. I'm a dual citizen, so they were both out of date. So don't be in that situation, because that made me have to move my trip 1 week back and cost me basically almost $1,000. Very stressful week. So don't do that. And I also made sure I had my schedule set up. I had every week lined up where I was going to stay, where I was going to be. Now, for me, there was familial obligations along with this trip, because this is where my family is and lives. So I only see them every 2 years. So that inherently was going to be part of me being here. So I made sure I had my schedule. But regardless, if you have family or not, you need to have your schedule set up. When are you going to be where? If your idea is to move around a place. That way you can kind of get a sense ahead of who you might be talking to or what you might be thinking about in those different areas. So I did that. I set up that schedule. And then in those weeks, I already had dates set aside for like when I was going to go to the city, or my family lives out in the country, so I have to make those arrangements. I had a car arranged for me. I was lucky in this way, transportation in other words. And then I had a friend who, in my first week, actually my cousin, helped me set up some interviews. She knows people. So having a contact in country, family or friend or professional that can get you sort of in the know, get you your first two interviews if that's what you're going to be doing. Of course, also, I had to have my IRB done. And the IRB took a long time for me because I initially was going to interview asylum seekers, and I ended up not having that as part of my project because it became far too complex. But that being said, I still need to have my IRB. I literally got my IRB approval the day I got to Switzerland. I saw it in my email. So that was so last minute. I was just there with the hope and trust that it would go through, that my final corrections would work out. And they did, thankfully. But you don't want to be caught in a situation where you do all this field work and then you try to go back and get your IRB finally approved, and then you have to backdate everything. First of all, ethically, that's super problematic. And second of all, that could very potentially not work and get you in a lot of trouble. So get your IRB done ahead of time. I have a friend right now who's struggling with that. So there's that. So I did all that legwork ahead of time, and it wasn't enough. It was not enough. Then when I got here, the process itself, since my ideas or my methodology is about Dasein, is about phenomenology and experiencing being here, my work inherently had to do with experiencing the place as well as I could, as possible as I could. The weather has not been cooperating, so I've been experiencing weather, but weather limits you. So Switzerland has had the craziest summer I can ever remember in my childhood, since my childhood. It has been winter, or fall, I should say fall here. It has been unseasonably cool, raining nearly every day. I've been here for nearly 6 to 7 weeks, and we've had 5 days of sunshine. That's it. So all the things I thought I was going to be doing, the events I would be going to, were canceled because of this unseasonable weather. So there's these like little hiccups that can occur that are totally beyond your control. And so you got to be prepared for that. Then there's also days where you just need a break. So I tried to work this whole Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and then weekends, have my time off and my evenings, try to do a little writing and be with my family. That wasn't super helpful. So it worked out sometimes. But not all the time. So making sure, though, that you have your boundaries set up and that people know exactly why you're there, what you're there to do. If you're going to a place where you have family, it can be more complicated. Like in my situation, if this is not your problem, not something you have to worry about. But there's always things to go see and do, right? Especially if you are somebody who likes field work. You're probably somebody who likes to travel and go do stuff. So if you can, any of that travel, if it can become part of what you're doing, even better. So for example, I had to go to I didn't have to, but I was invited to go to Jungfraujoch, which is a very touristy site. And it's a mountain by Jungfrau, by the Eiger, North Face. People go hike it. Anyway, very famous. I go there, and unexpectedly, this has become a chapter of my dissertation. It will be a chapter. It is definitely part of what I'm doing. So being prepared, but also being prepared to be surprised, is part of it. And I went to a conference in LA about 6 months ago regarding this element of being prepared to be surprised doing your field work, meaning that there are times when you are doing just whatever, not concentrating especially on your field work, but you're prepared for the surprises that might occur in those instances, meaning I always had my camera with me. In the back of your head, naturally, you're kind of always thinking about what you're doing. So that when I went into Jungfraujoch, I was fully prepared to take all the pictures and think through these kinds of objects and landscape and experiences that I was having, both as a Swiss person, as a tourist, and as an ethnographer. So being prepared to do that is incredibly important, being prepared to be surprised. So the process day to day has varied. I get up, I go run. That's important to me. If the weather's cooperating, I go run. There was a couple days where I went and cleaned the stalls before I started my work. There were some days where I would hike first, then come back and do work. There was days I had interviews set up, boom, boom, boom. I only interviewed all day. So every day varied. Some people need a more set schedule. I'm fine with that. I get stressed out if I have a set schedule and then I can't adhere to it. That just sends me into the ether. So I'd rather not have it like that. I had a lot of things I had to send home because I was collecting a lot of material, and that has been an expensive process. I think I've probably spent 150 francs, which is around $115, just sending stuff home. So that's a problem. I don't really know how to, you can't really resolve that problem. It's just how it is, I suppose. So that can happen. How I'm feeling right now about this whole research process is that it's not long enough. I've had 2 weeks a couple of years ago. I've been coming here on and off my whole life. And then I had a month and a half now, and I know I don't have enough. But I know I can also do a lot of archival work, and I can continue through technology to handle interviews and so forth. So that somewhat mitigates, the technology mitigates what would have been a few years ago or a number of years ago a problem. But if you can spend more time in a field site than a month and a half, obviously do so. Switzerland is a little unreasonably expensive, so it's I just picked an expensive field site. It's just the way it is, and I can't afford it, even with family here. So that's just my limitation. I am also extremely grateful to the contacts I've made, and I'm going to go home and write letters to those individuals, politicians that I've been able to speak with. The abbot of Einsiedler here, he spoke with me for quite extensively, and he's a pretty well-known guy. So people will take their time, and I think that's the other thing I want to say is that if you are genuinely interested in what other people have to say, which you probably would be if you're doing field work, and you are polite and give other folks space to express and talk and give their point of view to you, rather than inflicting them with what your work is about and what you think you're going to see. They tend to be extremely open. I have gotten a lot of interviews I don't think I would have gotten had they known what my feelings were, especially about the situation here with Ausländer or foreigners. It's particularly difficult in Switzerland right now if you are somebody from another country, even if you've been here a couple of generations. It is increasingly difficult. That's not to say you hide your intentions when you're doing your work. I'm open and I'm honest when people ask me, but I also need to give others the room to express themselves. I mean, that's the whole point, right, is to gather this kind of information to try and understand. So in order to try and understand, you need to give people space to express themselves. Or else they're just going to, shut down, or they're not going to feel comfortable, or they're going to end the interview, or what have you, and you've totally lost out. So this trick of it's not a trick really, but managing sort of my personal feelings with also trying to gather information from people who I normally would never speak to. In my instance, some were extremely right-wing. I would not have been able to do that had I taken another approach. So drawing people to you rather than pushing towards them, a pulling or a drawing rather than a pushing, maybe. I don't know. But leaving space for them to talk, unlike what I'm doing now, which is just talking. So don't do that. Yeah, and I feel like this field work has been extremely beneficial. I don't know that I could have gotten the depth of understanding I could have had I been on the other side of the water, of the ocean, and then the land. There's water, land, California. Yeah. So now the research process does not end. I continue. I will continue to do interviews, probably via Skype, and I start writing. That's the goal. I have a writing quarter when I come home, and I'm still teaching at a local community college, which sucks, but I need the money, so that's the way it goes. But this is it. This is the final stretch. Here we go. And if I can't do it, then it's it. It's done. So I really don't have a choice, right? If I want to be Dr. Bush and have a good job, this is where the rubber meets the road, I guess, as the saying goes. At any rate, so if you have any questions about research or field work or anything that I probably have, there's so much more I could say, but I want to leave it at that. I'm already at 15 minutes. It's far too long. So yeah, give me an email or send me a video. Thank you. Have a good day, and say goodbye to beautiful Switzerland. I don't know if you can see it, but it's not so sunny. Ciao.